Bunny Mew.
Muted still?
Now you sound fine.
No, if I'm unmuted.
You are no
Me?
longer muted.
Okay.
So you realize I just shit all over your pretty boy, right? Like you're still.
I was in the stream the whole time. I was in the chat.
Okay. So did I do it? Are you no longer a Provolone fan?
No, I love Hunter Avallone.
Damn it.
I was providing arguments the whole time.
What possible argument could you be? Do you want to discuss the points in his videos?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with
There's some like the one thing I might disagree with him on is I think it was a cheap shot going after the person who licked the toilet like that. I feel like that was easy jab to go after.
Okay.
Or two things in that first video were.
Gotcha. So everything else we're free to hit up?
Unless you like bring something up and I'm like, actually because I'm gonna be honest with you, I have pretty bad memory problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about the very first point that he discussed in his very first video, where he said that it was insane that the leader of the Mermaids Transgender UK charity organization asked the police to investigate that journalist for harassing her trans daughter on Twitter?
I think that, and I know that they live in the UK, so United States rules or law is not the same as it is in the UK, but I don't think that the harassment, I'm really iffy on it. I personally believe that somebody has repeatedly gone after somebody like over and over and over and over again, and is actively making threats against them. I don't really think that what is currently law versus what I believe should be law may differ. I don't believe that should be considered harassment or it should be illegal. I believe it should be covered under free speech. Now, whether or not
you don't believe you don't believe repeated harassment, threats, doxing, targeting,
in this
encouraging
example,
other people?
I don't believe it was repeated.
Well, it was a person with a large public platform.
Chain of tweets.
Yeah, it was a person with a large public platform.
People with large platforms should be what they say because people
with large public platforms
have control over what people in their fan base do.
No. You absolutely do. This is the same shit Gamergaters used to say. You have no right to say that you don't control what your community does if you just repeatedly dead-named a trans girl, called her he, said that she was mutilated, abused, castrated, and made sterile. If you do all this like vitriolic shit towards the trans daughter of an already publicly maligned figure, you have absolutely no right to say that you didn't expect your followers to follow up on that with harassment.
I think you do, though. Like, I don't think that they should be responsible for what their followers do.
Okay,
what would you do if one of your followers did something?
If I was a large public figure and I repeatedly harassed somebody online and they were a marginalized minority and I used vitriolic language against them and that caused people in my community to target them, yeah, I believe absolutely the police would have a right to investigate that.
Okay, I gotta ask you this one then.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe PewDiePie was in any way responsible for the New Zealand shooting?
Yes.
How can I agree on that?
I know that you don't agree on that.
I do not, no.
I know that you don't, but that's getting a little bit off topic here. You do realize that under the legal currently existing definition of harassment, that it could be argued the journalist in question met it, and if that is the case, the police have every right to investigate the situation?
Believe if that is the case, that is the current law, which I cannot attest to whether or not it is or is not in the UK because I'm not from the UK, I'm from the US. I believe their law should be changed.
Okay, so you don't think then that it's a little bit irresponsible for Hunter Avallone to frame this as LGBT insanity when the person in question is operating 100% within the confines of the law and she has the legal right to bring the police in to investigate the incident? You don't think that
I think Hunter's main point was that people should not... I believe the way that you were looking at the video was that he was saying that accident, where I don't believe that Hunter was presenting it in that way. I believe that Hunter was presenting it like, oh yeah, that he didn't attest either way to whether or not she was doing it accidentally or intentionally. And Hunter's point was,
no, I mean, he
you
framed it
shouldn't be at
misleadingly.
risk
He
of jail
deliberately
time or legal consequences.
he deliberately left out sections of the video where the full extent of the harassment was detailed. He framed it as though it was just accidentally misgendering her trans daughter, which is not the case. He was deliberately disingenuous with the way in which
But the first time I watched the video, that's not how I interpreted it.
I don't doubt
and
it.
I don't believe a large portion of his audience interpreted it that way either.
He and his audience hate trans people. I don't particularly care how
That's
they
not
think they.
True.
Really? You really think that Hunter Avallone doesn't have a problem with trans people? He calls like trans people delusory.
Well, he's not best friends, but he's close friends with Blair White.
Blair White is not the fucking bar that I set. Being friends with Blair White is not an indication you're not transphobic. It is evidence you are transphobic, because Blair White is the most aggressively transphobic trans woman I have ever seen gain a public platform. It is fucking insane. So of course that's why the conservatives love her, because they can point to her and use that as evidence that they are not personally transphobic, while they all link arm in arm and continue to espouse transphobic rhetoric.
Okay, well, I don't understand how that makes him transphobic, though. Like,
okay, saying that trans people are delusional, saying that gender is a binary.
Non-binary people are delusional.
He has said, I watched his transgender video, my dude. I know what he thinks about transgender people.
Which video did you watch? Because he's gone back on, he used to say that he used to be of the mindset that born a female, or as you guys like to say, assigned female at birth, and then you transition, you're still a female, or vice versa. He is since, and I think Blair was in why he changed his mind on that.
Yeah, The Truth About Transgenders, which came out 3 years ago. The title card is of him wearing a wig, and he,
though.
Huh?
I'm not sure if that was before or after he changed his mind on the subject, though.
If he changed his mind on it and he believes now that this video is full of transphobic rhetoric he no longer agrees with, why doesn't he take down the video?
Well, because he's made a video addressing it, and I'm not sure which video you're referring to, because I've watched all of his videos, and I watched them kind of as they came out. I've been a fan of his for basically, I don't want to say since he started his channel, a pretty long time.
Right.
So I believe that he's changed his opinion since, and publicly came out in videos saying that, and he's left his old content up, to hide from things he said in the past.
I have to judge him. I have to judge him on the information that I have. I have to judge him on the information I have been provided, and if he is still, as of videos that came out 5 days ago, saying stuff like non-binary people are delusional, making jokes about LGBT people at every given possibility,
he doesn't consider non-binary people trans, though. That's the thing. That's
it doesn't.
Okay,
then okay. Even if you don't consider non-binary people to be trans, you can still be non-binary phobic or whatever, and that's still a slight against the LGBT community.
See, he doesn't see it that way, and it's because in LGBT, he's mostly talking about lesbian, bisexual, or
you're cutting out a lot, by the way. Yeah, your voice is cutting out a lot, by the way.
Sorry.
Do you have push to talk on?
I have what?
Do you have push to talk on in Discord, or are you using voice detection?
I am not sure what I'm using. I'm using a crappy microphone that I got. It's connected to headphones, so that might be why.
Okay. Here. I can help you with this. I can help you with this. Listen. Do you see on Discord? Do you see the user settings button in the bottom left? It's like a little gear wheel.
By the way, I'm not gonna lie. I'm technologically retarded, but yeah, I found that.
Okay. Well, you've met the standard of intellectual capacity necessary for this. Now you see that you've got a list of settings on the left. Click on the one under app settings, which is called voice and video. Okay. Now click on the input mode voice activity, and then set the input sensitivity to 0. Like drag the slider all the way to the left. That way your mic will always be active.
All the way to the left?
Yeah, so click on voice activity, and then for input sensitivity, you want to make sure it does not automatically detect. You want to set it to manual detection and set the slider all the way to the left at negative 100 decibels.
Put it all the way to the left. I don't see something that says manual detection.
Do you have it set to voice activity?
Do I unclick that?
No, you want to click it, so it's on voice activity.
And then I took the input sensitivity, and now it's all the way to the left.
You
Is
got
that
it?
any better?
Yes, I will. Yes. I will now be able to hear you all of the time, but that means your mic will always be active, so don't, like, smash your fingers against it, because then I'll hear all that shit.
Untangle it. It's, like, tangled up in my headphones, Loki.
No worries.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, you realize that non-binary people are part of the LGBT community, right?
Well, yes and no.
Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, they are. That's definitionally they are part of it.
I'm one of, and I know you're not gonna like this, but I'm of the belief that there are only two genders.
I know that you're of that belief. And as we discussed last time, gender is a social construct. Are you aware of the fact that there are other societies in which there are 3 genders, or more, or less?
Yes, I've heard about that, and okay.
Do you think they're just like wrong?
To think that
you cut out for a second. Can you repeat from the beginning?
I think I told this to you like last time, but I believe that gender is linked to genitalia. I don't think it's synonymous with genitalia, but I think it's linked to genitalia.
So again, do you think those cultures were just wrong?
That your genitalia should be.
Do you think those cultures were just wrong then? The ones that had like 3 genders or different concepts of gender than us?
If that's their culture, they're free to express it.
I'm not asking you. You're asserting that gender is an empirically demonstrable thing, and empirically demonstrable things can be proven right or wrong. So, do you think those other cultures are right or wrong?
If that's what they believe, that there are 3 genders, then the other cultures are wrong.
Okay, you realize that if I Google right now gender, it says, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones.
That definition has been changed within the past 5 years, right?
No, it hasn't. The definition of gender being different from sex has been consistent for decades. No. This has nothing to do with leftism. Gender and sex mean different things. Sex refers to genitalia. Gender does not. That's why we have 2 separate words. I'm sorry, the word doesn't mean what you think.
Gender is something different than sex, but I'm saying that gender is what your brain feels like your sex should be.
No. That's still sex. That's a biological component. Gender refers to... Listen, if you're so triggered over the actual definition of this word, do you want me to use another word like urogender or feel... Like, what word can I use that will describe to you the social construct, which refers to, like, our behavioral mannerisms? Like, for instance...
That's the thing. I don't believe it is a social construct, though.
Okay, well, let's talk about some things, okay? Why do girls typically tend to wear panties instead of boxers or briefs?
I believe 1, because it's like designed to be more comfortable, and 2, more females are inclined to buy that type of thing.
Why are more females inclined to buy that type of thing? And that's not necessarily true, by the way. I know plenty of people with vaginas who wear briefs. It's just as comfortable on them as it is with people with penises. Why?
I think that people, if you just like them, you just like them.
Okay, why do women overwhelmingly choose to purchase?
Because they like.
Why do women overwhelmingly
underwear,
why do women overwhelmingly choose to purchase panties or G-strings or whatever, and men overwhelmingly choose to buy boxers and briefs?
If 1, because it's more comfortable for them.
That's not necessarily true. Briefs are comfortable on everybody. They're gender-neutral clothing, or at least they're designed to be gender-neutral clothing. It's not a matter of comfort. Panties are not more comfortable than briefs. Why do women overwhelmingly choose to buy panties and G-strings, and men overwhelmingly choose to buy boxers and briefs?
It's because I don't know, because they want to.
Okay, you don't know. Okay, you don't know. Okay, yeah, you don't know. All right, let's move on. Why do you think would you assign a gender to the colors pink and blue?
Not necessarily, no.
You don't think that pink is like a girl color and boy is a blue color?
Pink has been, and I think that's a gender norm.
Okay.
societal norm, but I don't think that's gender itself. I think that's separate.
It is a part.
Associated with femininity.
Yes, if it's associated with femininity, and femininity refers to a gender, it is femininity, femme, it's a gendered term, same with masculinity, then the colors pink and blue, as they are associated...
You can have masculine females and feminine guys,
I completely agree with you, because gender and sex are different.
What I'm saying is that gender roles and gender expectations are not the same as gender itself.
Can you explain to me what the difference is between gender role, gender expectation, and gender itself, and why you don't ascribe to any of the commonly defined terms in regards here? Because this would be so much simpler. This would be a much easier conversation if you would just accept the fact that literally everyone who has an academic opinion on this accepts the fact that gender is a social construct. Gender does not mean what your brain thinks your sex is. Gender refers to gender roles and gender expectation and gender construct. It refers to the broader network of social expectations that relate to a person's identity. Because I could go over a million of these, like why women wear dresses and why men wear fucking suits, why we act differently, why women grow their hair out longer than men do, different like cultural attitudes towards body hair, why women sometimes shave their armpits and men like fucking never do. None of these things can be explained biologically. All of them pertain to social expectation, and all of them are part of
expectations. Are not the same as gender. That's gender rules and gender norms.
What if gender is related to gender rules and gender norms?
They wear more pink and they shave their armpits and have longer hair. That's gender expectations and gender norms.
Why do you think?
That's not gender itself.
Okay, then why does gender refer to something completely different from what gender role and gender expectation are? Again, like you're using a definition nobody uses. Gender is not what your brain thinks your sex is. That's a component of sex. Sex refers to the biological and gender refers to the social. We could have such an easier time discussing this if we would use the correct terminology.
Well, then explain what you believe gender dysphoria is. If that's only idle thing and it's not at all biological, then why do people with gender dysphoria feel the need to transition?
Gender dysphoria is something of a misnomer, in the same way that transgender is, because people who are transgender often go to great lengths to alter their sexual characteristics. I'm not going to argue semantics with you. Gender dysphoria, broadly speaking, refers to the discomfort somebody experiences with their body, but gender, as a term, refers to the social expectations, the social roles, the identity surrounding, at least in the West, sexual identity.
Well, I disagree with that, though.
But it's not. But you might as well disagree with the definition of tree. This isn't empirical science. This is linguistics. We're assigning definitions to words.
Well, okay. Then are you saying that it's a choice to be transgender? Then?
No, of course not.
Logical component to being transgender.
No, it's not. Just because gender is a social construct doesn't mean you choose your gender.
How does that work? If it's not biological choice, how does that work?
Again, being transgender is biological. Being
well, then how does then you need gender dysphoria in order to be trans?
For one, you don't need gender dysphoria in order to be trans. You just need to not identify as the gender you were assigned with at birth. You can be non-binary, and that could be considered being trans. That is considered being trans. It meets the definition. You no longer identify as the gender you were assigned at birth. You identify as something else. Non-binary, agender, gender fluid. There's being trans doesn't necessarily only involve gender dysphoria and sexual confirmation surgery.
I think it does, though. I think being trans, is the defining component to being medically diagnosed with being transgender.
There's no such thing as a medical diagnosis of being transgender. There can be a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
Surgeries and getting.
You get a medical diagnosis.
Gender dysphoria
because you
know what I meant.
You get a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. There's no such thing as diagnosing transgender. It's an identity.
I meant a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. You need that.
If you feel a severe...
you need that to get in order to get surgeries.
If you feel severe emotional distress at how you look and it pertains to your gendered or sexual expectations of how you believe you should look, that is considered to be gender dysphoria.
I don't think I don't know. I don't see like how because here's where I think the problem is that I think since in my opinion and from my experience and from what I have researched into, I agree with this, but hear me out.
Okay.
Gender is based on genitalias, and since there are only two sets of genitalia, excluding, I know there's technically people who are hermaphrodites or people who are born with conditions, but they're very, very, very rare. So if we exclude those people, two sets of genitalia, and that's what the people are identifying.
Can you explain to me what research you've engaged in that has led you to believe that gender refers to genitalia?
You know, you're not gonna like this, but I've watched a lot of Blair White videos. I've watched a lot of videos.
Okay, all right. Okay, we've gotten to the root of it. Okay, thank you for being candid. I mean,
I've researched it further than that, but the thing that really got me into it was watching her videos.
Okay, Blair White is not exactly a Blair White's a huge piece of shit. She's not exactly the person you want to learn about.
Blair White. Blair White's like my second favorite YouTuber after Hunter Avallone.
Okay, and Hunter Avallone's a piece of shit. Do we want to go down the list? Who's your third favorite YouTuber?
Head.
Huh? Hello?
Head.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, you do. I mentioned her in the chat the other day.
Wait, who?
God, who is she dating?
Wait, who are we referring to?
Maybe Skeptic.
Oh, Shoe on Head. Oh, I heard the shoe cut out. Yeah, also a piece of shit. What are you gonna do? I mean, I'm not a reactionary. Like, probably everyone you like, I'm going to disagree with.
Probably.
Listen,
I used to be more into Steven Crowder a while ago, but then I engaged with some of his audience on Facebook. I don't know. I feel like I'm not as big a fan as I used to be of him.
That's probably for the best. Listen, in the medical community and in the psychiatric community and in the linguistic community, gender is defined as a social construct. That's what separates it from sex. I don't know, I can't have this discussion with you if you're just really rigidly set in a useless, arbitrary definition of gender that doesn't conform to medical or psychological consensus.
I'm gonna humor your idea that gender is in fact a social construct and is not based on sex.
Mm-hmm.
Are there then? And what do we base gender on? What is gender then?
Gender is totally fucking arbitrary. Gender is the collection of socially aligned characteristic traits, behavioral mannerisms, and roles that surround one's identity. For instance, I don't know anything about you. I assume you're a woman. I mean, I can probably, right? Like, I'm not gonna fucking misgender you here, right?
Female, yes.
Yeah.
The reason I don't like openly say it though is because I think it's funny when everyone in your chat like assumes I'm a guy just because I have a different opinion.
Yeah, well, usually when people are reactionaries, they tend to be male. That's typically the case. But I agree, chat. Listen, women can be pieces of shit. Listen. Okay. So you're a woman, you're assigned female at birth. Again, I assume. Or you know what? I'm actually just going to use myself as an example because that way I don't have to trip up on any fucking terminology. I was assigned male at birth. I'm a man, okay? Here are the things that make me assigned male at birth, okay? Or the reasons why I was assigned male at birth. I was born with a big fucking schlong. Just a big fucking dick. Big fucking baby dick flopping out of my mom, okay? Big dick, big balls, giant prostate inside of me like a billiards ball poking out through my stomach, okay? So there we go. And I grow up, and imagine then that I grow up in the forest, or I grow up in a completely genderless society, or I grow up raised by aliens. I think we can run with that. And the aliens are all gender-neutral blobs. They speak like us, they can communicate, I can learn from them, I can learn language and etiquette and what have you. But I can't learn anything about human gender. Here are the things that I would not do in this society. I would not believe that there is anything like heroic or virtuous or strong or charismatic or leader-like about being a man. I would not think that suits are a better way of dressing myself formally as opposed to dresses. I wouldn't think that briefs are a better way of dressing myself than panties. I wouldn't keep my hair cropped short, or at the very least, I wouldn't think I'll look more masculine if I keep my hair cropped short. Same with my beard. If I grow my beard, it'll just be my beard. I won't think like, this is a manly beard. I wouldn't choose to or to refrain from decorating myself with jewelry or tattoos or other forms of ornamental decoration and see it as relating to my gender. All of the things that I just described are things we learn from other people, traits that we borrow from society, and expectations that are placed on us. Like, for example, saying that men should hide their feelings or, like, not cry or be, like, stoic and tough it out, man up and stuff. Huh?
Saw your chat. I was arguing with some of your chat earlier about that specific point. And Hunter Avallone he said that he's brought up the male suicide statistic. People who, for myself, a men's rights activist, who are men's rights activists, a serious problem. But the reason I feel like a bunch of the men are put in this position is because we live in a society that we make our education catered to females.
You realize
boys they're defective.
No, please stop with the fucking alt-right talking points. We don't. The reason why women tend to perform better in schools than men currently, and this is not a long-term pattern, even though male suicide rates have been higher for decades, possibly centuries, is because lately we've been devaluing aggression in schools. And men, little boys, are usually taught to be more aggressive than little girls. That's it. All of the research I've read on the subject, it hasn't been like, and then little Billy showed up and the teacher pulled his pants down and found a penis, so he was sent to the back of the room where he couldn't read the chalkboard and was not able to pass the class. Instead, it's stuff like boys tend to be disproportionately accused of fucking rabble-rousing in class, and that tends to reflect poorly on their schooling. I agree, by the way, that men and women should have an equal shake in education, and I certainly agree that the male suicide rate is the problem. Do you know why I agree with those things?
Your belief is that it's because of quote-unquote toxic masculinity. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is the predominant sociological consensus on the subject, yes. I believe these things because I'm a feminist, and I think that it really fucking sucks that men have really fucking high suicide rates, as a feminist, as someone interested in gender equality.
I don't believe feminism... I always have to specify this. I don't believe modern feminism, and we can debate on whether it's third wave versus fourth wave, depending on who did the work, is where which one ended and which one started. But I don't believe what I consider to be modern feminism as advocating for the equality of the sexes. Rather than, I believe modern day feminism is tear away all of like the intersectional feminism, where you include all sorts of other stuff. If you go back to just the gender, I believe a lot of it's about the superiority.
Do you have any evidence for that?
Femininity over masculinity and else.
Okay, well, I'm a third wave / fourth wave / intersectional feminist, and I participate in the academic literature in this regard. And pretty much all of the literature that has come out about like helping men and men's unique problems and toxic masculinity and what can be done to solve those problems has come out of academic feminist literature. So can you please provide me any evidence that feminism...
I'm bored with it. Like,
you're bored with what?
Like admitting that your sources are biased.
They're not. I'm sorry. Listen, I can't listen, my friend. No, your sources that you have provided, the sources you have provided are YouTube videos and YouTubers. The sources I can suggest are academically certified peer-reviewed articles from experts in the field who have been writing for decades. Please do not engage in conspiracy theory by suggesting that academic consensus is even remotely comparable to your YouTube subscriber page.
YouTubers, they use a lot of research in their videos.
I've watched the videos from the YouTubers you're describing. No, they don't. They do not. I can go over those videos. I can go over every video you've ever watched and I can take apart all of them. They're just wrong. I'm sorry it hurts, but the videos that you have watched have not been providing you an accurate understanding of what feminism is in this time period. It isn't that. Can you give me any examples of feminism, like on an academic level, being about promoting the superiority of femininity over masculinity?
Oh, and you're gonna say this is I'm trying my best not to use anecdotal evidence because I believe that's a weak form of. I believe we have a consensus on that because I heard you earlier saying that you were trying not to use that either. I guess back in a couple years ago, back when Tumblr, like 2015.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to Tumblr in 2015. So we're literally using the Tumblr screenshot argument. And
well, it wasn't a specific user though. It was the majority of the user base.
I can't do the Tumblr argument, my dude.
You typed in men to the search bar, like the first thing that would come up was kill all men.
For one, not only is this not sourceable anymore, but for two, this has literally nothing to do with feminism.
Well, if it does, because all those posts were tagged as feminism.
Okay, and what does that have to do with feminism?
You have people, and it's not the female versus male thing, but like people in your chat earlier were saying, haha, Mayo side, which
do you think that people do you think that means it means kill all white people? Do you think that saying Mayo side? I know what I deduced from that. Yeah, do you think that saying Mayo side is in any way comparable to saying like we need to deport or execute all black people in America?
Mayo side is clearly a joke, but I feel like you guys take our jokes out of context.
Like what?
And you exaggerate them.
No, like, we don't. Listen, God, you do realize that Hunter Avallone and Blair White are like part of the alt-right, right? We're not taking the jokes.
Consider them. Well, the problem with that.
What is the problem with that?
Alt-right and what people in my circle, in my in my community consider alt-right are two completely different things. Just as you probably would consider the alt-left as something different.
No, there's no such thing as the alt-left. There's no such thing as the alt-left.
What is the alt-right and what is not the alt-right? That's why you have so many people who you would consider alt-right saying I'm not alt-right.
No, I don't. Wait, well, yeah, and there are Nazis who say they're not Nazis. I don't care. Please, shh. For one, there's no such thing as the alt-left. For two, Nazis also say they're not Nazis. I'm not interested in listening to somebody who does nothing but espouse bigotry on their public platform tell me why they're not a member of the alt-right. If they, you know the saying, if it sounds like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it looks like a duck. Hunter Avallone's entire fucking YouTube history is him shitting on marginalized groups, him making fun of leftists and liberals. He is 100% a part of the reactionary movement that people are calling the alt-right. Just because he doesn't have a video out where he explicitly says, and by the way, all of this is because of the Jews, does not mean that he's not a part of that broader cultural movement. Same with Blair White, same with Steven Crowder.
I don't agree with that, though. I feel like so what happened was, I believe that at one time, the people who made memes and stuff, and they called themselves alt-right, and then people like Richard Spencer decided, hey, this looks like a fun...
Richard Spencer was literally the person who created the term alt-right. Richard Spencer was literally the person who termed it alt-right. He was the one who created it.
Blamed it, but I'm pretty sure it came from 4chan and just
he coined it. Just because he saw it in 4chan beforehand doesn't mean that he's not like the person who brought that term into the mainstream. The term is associated to him.
That's why after he brought his name up with association, everybody started saying, whoa, we're not associated with that anymore.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be associated with a Nazi. That doesn't mean they're not associated with a Nazi, though. I would go so far as to say that Ben Shapiro is a member of the alt-right, even though he's Jewish and a Zionist.
Would not agree with that. I'm not as big of a fan as Ben Shapiro as I am of the aforementioned YouTubers that I've already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I would not by any means consider Ben Shapiro to be a member of the alt-right. Would you consider PewDiePie the alt-right?
I can only inductively reason because he has generally kept his like espoused political views pretty quiet. But I would say that yes, if he's not a member of the alt-right, then he's definitely been radicalized by them to the extent that he does their propaganda for them, which is all that I need.
I think PewDiePie is alt-right.
I have the answer I just gave. I have no way of knowing for sure. He hasn't made a video where he expresses all of his political views, but given the kinds of behavior he engages in, I have every reason to believe that he has been radicalized by the alt-right.
How far left do you have to be then? Where
to not be the alt-right? You don't have to be that far left to not be the alt-right, trust me. The Overton window is not...
I'm not saying that you're saying that somebody has to be leftist to not be alt-right, but on the political scale, where somebody who is on the right and is not a traditional conservative, like Mitt Romney style conservative, where would you draw the line?
Anyone, pretty much anyone.
The alt-right lens, regular conservatives begin.
Pretty much anyone. Look, the farthest right I can go without being alt-right would probably be Ted Cruz. Okay, that's the farthest right person I can imagine who I would not consider to be even tangentially related to the alt-right.
Well, I think what you consider the alt-right would be the kind of counterculture, anti-political correctness movement. Would that be correct?
I would definitely say the alt-right is a part of that reactionary movement.
Okay, so if somebody was, like, more of an alt-right, somebody who, and I know, I'm not saying that Mike Pence did all these things, but I know this is the left's understanding of Mike Pence, that he was responsible for, he said that he wanted to electrocute gays or something, which isn't necessarily true. It's kind of a half-truth and
he promotes electroshock therapy as a form of conversion therapy for gay people.
He did.
Which is also electrocuting gay people.
You consider him to be alt-right?
Mike Pence? No, I wouldn't.
Would you consider Trump to be alt-right?
Yeah, unquestionably.
Well, Trump's position on LGBT people has been far more friendly and far more inclusive than Mike Pence's position. Would you agree with that?
I would say that if Mike Pence was president, he would probably go after LGBT rights harder than Trump, but Trump has never shown himself to be like an ally of the queer community. He took down like the LGBT page from whitehouse.gov.
Well,
he's made plenty of disparaging... What?
Like transgender military thing, and that's probably like the... You know, he had a gay person...
You realize I literally don't care. Like, this has nothing to do with being all right. Do you realize how pathetic these excuses sound? Yeah, he tried to kick all transgender people out of the military, but one time a gay guy came on and spoke for him. This is nothing. This is a nothing burger.
Okay, if that's the case, then are you saying that he's less inclusive?
I don't care who's more inclusive between the two of them. I care about the tide of fascism that's drowning this country.
What I'm saying is somebody can be further right, but you still wouldn't consider them alt-right.
Yeah, again,
because
this is
not part of this giant.
If you need to in order to be alt-right, what you need to be to me is you need to be a... Okay, I'm describing the American alt-right here. You need to be a populist. You need to be a nationalist. You need to blame America's current woes on changing demographics or in degeneracy from sexual liberation on the left, and you need to believe it's part of a grander conspiracy, like leftist academics, which you have cited, by the way, that leftist research that I cite is biased, or the Jews, or some other larger, broader threat is the cause of this social degeneration. They're the ones that are bringing in the brown people. They're the ones who are promoting degeneracy. In order for you to be alt-right, you need to fit those categories to me.
You're linking in people...
I can't talk about the definition. I can't talk about the definition of alt-right with you. It's already like a kind of like tetchy definition, like broadly speaking, because it's not a solidly defined movement. But I can't define the fucking boundaries with you. All I can tell you is that people like Hunter Avallone and Bear White are concretely within it.
Okay, well, we disagree on that then, because I don't believe that they would be considered by our definition of alt-right.
I don't care. You guys don't. Will never in my life. I could die, and never at any point between now and then would I care even slightly about what right-leaning people consider alt-right. Fascists have always laid in bed with the American right. American conservatism is always lean, just a hair's width away from full-blown fucking pro-American fascism. I really do not care what like the prevailing right theory is on who is and is not a contingent of the alt-right. What I can see, however, is patterns in how people behave. People making anti-intellectual jokes that discredit academia. People making jokes about cultural degeneracy. People making jokes about tides of brown people coming in. People making jokes about Democrats being like traitors to the country. All of these things, by and large, are indicative of a broader social trend towards reactionary values. And some people in that fucking reactionary group believe some shit about Jews, okay? I don't want to spend time hashing out the exact borderline definition of everyone who is and is not part of the alt-right constituency. What I care about is the values that alt-righters prop up, like Hunter Avallone, who fucking hates gay people, and fucking hates trans people, and fucking hate non-binary people. He hates fat acceptance, he hates liberals, he hates women, all this shit. His entire fucking discography here on YouTube is him shitting on the fucking marginalized communities and making fun of liberals. That's it. That's 100% what he does, which makes him a reactionary.
I lost my train of thought. I had something I was about to say, and then I forgot what it was. It'll come back to me in a second.
What do you think the alt-left is?
My opinion on what the alt-left is basically what Antifa is. If you're willing to justify violence, your cause.
So violence makes you alt-left?
Yes, if you're committing violence.
I'm alt-left then. You know I've participated in Antifa rallies. I'm
aware.
Yeah, okay. All right, cool. So then you believe that any people who engage in any sort of advocacy for violence would consider, are they then become like fringe elements of their political constituency?
I believe yes.
Okay. I mean, sure. I don't think that's a valuable definition because all forms of political advocacy are violent in my eyes. But sure, if that's the definition you want to use, fine. All politics is violent.
By lumping in a lot of people with Nazis, you're going to drive people away from your cause.
I'm not interested in the optics.
Who are closer to the center.
I can't listen to a reactionary talk about what optics I could use. You don't want to tell me what I could do to win. You want to tell me what I could do to lose. You and I agree on nothing. Politically, we are on opposite ends. Why would I ever take...
That's not true. We agreed yesterday that the wall would be too expensive. We had different reasonings behind
but what do you believe the wall would be too much because you also want to see brown people being able to integrate in this country without much problem?
I would like to see people who are from Mexico be able to get into America with less problems. I'd like to see immigration be made easier. I don't think that speaking English should be a requirement to get into this country.
Then I think in regards to this specific issue, we have comparable values, at least. But broadly speaking, I am not in the mindset of taking advice on optics from right-leaning people. I don't care if right-leaning people feel ostracized from violent rhetoric. Violence works. And again, all political advocacy is violent. If a congressman who leans right platforms on a like tough on crime stance, and their tough on crime stance ends up getting their mayor to start getting the fucking police chief to start cracking down on crime more, which means disproportionate policing. That advocacy for being tough on crime was an act of violence against that community. Anytime you advocate for anything that affects people's lives in any way, you're probably in some way or another backing it up with violence. Leftists tend to be cognizant of this fact.
That's something I don't think we're going to agree on. I think that when it comes to freedom of speech and whether free speech could be equated as violence in any circumstance, I don't believe that we're going to come to I'm pretty sure we're not going to come to some sort of consensus
Okay,
on that. That's probably my primary.
What about Hitler's free speech, where he
would,
decried Jews as the national plague that declared war on Germany after World War I to siphon money off to Jewish banks across the world, and then that led to
think that makes you an anti-Semitic asshole, but
and then
you should go to jail for it.
And then that led to Kristallnacht, in which tens of thousands of Jewish people were slaughtered in the night, their businesses and synagogues destroyed and burned. Would you not consider then that advocacy to be an act of violence?
I would not consider advocacy to be an act of violence if it's simply words, no.
So under no circumstances then, in your mind,
violence was when they went in and burned down all the synagogues, and they started, when they actually were committing the violence, that was the violence.
Okay, so in your mind then, there is no responsibility whatsoever for violent rhetoric until it gets to the point of the actual violence. Okay. I mean, I think that's a really stupid point of view, and by looking at it through my lens, we can prevent a lot more harm in society.
Well, this is what I think, though. I believe that by banning these things, we have more risk, basically taking away the right to individuality and taking away the right to have an opinion.
You realize Hitler never engaged in any actual violence, right? Like, he never personally killed anyone. He was a soldier in World War I, and then a political advocate, and then he became Huh?
I know a lot about World War II.
Do you know about... Okay, so by your definition, is Hitler, like, could we, like, persecute Hitler then at the end of World War II? Because everything he did was legal within the...
Because he was a political leader in charge of... There's a difference between...
Well, hold on. Wait,
let's bomb Canada.
Wait, hold on.
For bombing Canada because he's in a place of political influence and he's instructing people.
Okay, wait. We're at it, though. So you're saying people in a point of political influence, if they say things that get other people to commit violence, you would say that the original person...
orders, if they're like the president of the United States or the chancellor of Germany, and they're like... Though, if you have somebody who's like... and somebody tells the assassin, I want you to go kill everyone in the state of Iowa or something like that. And he goes and does that because that's what he did. I think that the person who told the assassin and paid the assassin, hey, I want you to go kill everyone in the state of Iowa, should be held responsible for that.
So the only way in which you can hold a person accountable for violent speech is if they literally instructed people who like they were paying to engage in that violence, and then they go ahead and do it. You don't think there should be any sort of like broader understanding of political violence or violent rhetoric or how public figures can enable it? What about all the conservatives who say that fucking left-leaning people on Twitter are encouraging Antifa with their messaging? Like, what about that?
Encourage Antifa all they want. If you want to say that Antifa is perfectly justified in doing everything they've done, and if you want to say that Antifa is a positive movement, I think you should have every right to do so.
Okay. What about me?
I have no objections to that.
I advocate for a violent revolution. How about that?
I have every right to do so. I have absolutely no problems with that from a legal point of view. I don't think that there should be any sort of legal intervention for that.
Okay. So we've established then that you are something of a free speech absolutist. Now, with that being said...
I would very much consider myself that.
With that being said, how do we deal with the fact then that your views on free speech are going to get a lot more people hurt? Because we now have absolutely no way of holding we have no way of holding people accountable, big public figures, for using rhetoric which will indirectly lead to violence against certain communities.
That's the thing. I believe that argument that it might lead to violence. However, the fact that the damage that taking away that right would do, and the damage that taking away free speech would do.
We're not taking away free speech. Nobody's talking about.
Greater than the amount of damage that it could possibly do to saying something hateful or having somebody saying something cruel or something that's, you know what I mean? Like, I think that the damage you have to look at it from which one would cause more damage. And I believe that you believe that these laws.
Wait, what? Wait, I just hit upon a solution. Maybe we can reach a middle ground here, because I agree with you. I don't think the government should be persecuting people like on online outlets like Twitter and shit for engaging in violent rhetoric. Like for instance, your Ben Shapiro types who are constantly talking about how Islam is going to bury the West in suicide bombings. Even though that rhetoric does definitely lead to more targeted violence against Muslims. I agree. The government probably shouldn't step in there. I do not trust the government to legislate what kind of free speech is valid and what isn't. Okay? Okay. But what if we kept the laws exactly how they are, and instead of making a legal argument, we make a moral argument about socially deplatforming the people who we believe are encouraging violence through their rhetoric? That way, the laws can stay the same.
To do that, if that's what you you should, if that's what you believe, if you honestly believe that these people like Hunter Avallone and Blair White are encouraging violence, then you have every right to go on and say, no, these people are wrong. These people are encouraging violence.
Okay, and we can deplatform them, and we can
you believe is going on. You're probably doing the right thing for you.
Wait, we can deplatform them and dox them and harass them and send them threats. Are you okay with all of that?
Doxing is different.
How so? I thought that it wasn't violence until the actual moment the violence is committed. All you're doing is finding out their address and posting it online. Do you have a problem with that?
I have a problem with how are you going about doing that? Because if you're publishing it and then saying go meet up and hurt Blair White, because
no. What if you're just like, hey, I'm a really big fan of Blair White, and then you just slide the address into your Twitter posts? You're not calling for any violence. You're not ordering anyone to commit violence. I don't see what the problem is here under your ethical system.
Rude, and I think that you should not do that. I think it's immoral.
Okay, but not illegal.
I don't think it.
You cut out. Could you repeat yourself?
Either way, I'm not 100% sure either way how I would feel about that. I would have to and then come up with a solid opinion, because I'm not 100% sold on whether or not doxing should or should not be illegal.
Okay. But everything, well, I mean, if doxing is illegal, then there are definitely other things that should be illegal that alt-right figures are doing on Twitter and such. Because doxing, I mean, what doxing really is suggesting and enabling violence against someone. But you can do it without calling for violence or paying for anyone to commit that violence. You can do the same thing if you're Ben Shapiro and you go on and on about how Islam is going to rape the West. And if you're Sarah Palin, you're like, hey, here are 5 democratic people that are a threat to our fucking national rights. And you post a map of them with 5 gun targets.
She's not posting their arguments.
Their arguments? You mean their addresses?
They're not, sorry, I meant addresses. I meant to say addresses.
So what? So it should be illegal then to post addresses? That's a really arbitrary boundary on free speech.
I'm not saying it should be illegal to post addresses, but I'm saying if you're doing it with malicious intent, and I'm not 100% sure that I don't think that it should be illegal. I'm not saying that, because that's, as I was saying, I'm not definitely sold on the subject of doxing either way, whether or not it should be legal or illegal.
Okay. But so then, okay, we can leave doxing at the side if you're still considering that. But what about, for example, everything else that I can do that would fit within your moral framework? I can harass, I can threaten, I can call other people to harass and threaten, I can deplatform, I can DDoS to try and get their site taken down. I can directed denial of service. Basically, I can clog their lines so they can't stream or upload shit or whatever. It's pretty easy to do these days. I can spread lies about them. There's nothing technically illegal about that if it's being done in certain contexts, and public figures have a really, really, really broad standard they need to prove in order to sue somebody for slander or libel. I can message their sponsors and try to get them desponsored. I feel like under your system, there's a lot of stuff that I can legally do to fuck over people I disagree with politically. Are you okay with all of those things?
I don't think that anything you've listed so far is something I would say should be illegal.
Cool. All right. Okay. I mean,
when it comes to libel, I have a problem with libel law too, and this is what I think that libel law should be versus what it actually is.
You want to tighten it up so it's harder to sue someone for libel?
that's something I do disagree with Trump on too. When he was, and I was trying to say that during the chat that Hunter doesn't necessarily. I can't speak on Hunter's behalf actually, so I won't speak on Hunter's behalf. But the law thing isn't necessarily like, I don't agree with Trump saying we should increase libel law and we should make it harder. I don't agree with that at all.
Nice. Me either.
You know, I'm a journalism major. I think that the press is an essential part of the First Amendment, and I very much think if anything, libel law should be less strict, and I think it should be if something is false, because I don't think you should be able to sue for libel for whistleblowers.
Okay, good. We're in agreement on that.
Information, and if it's like causing a substantial amount of harm. So I don't think if you know, like a string of numbers posted on Twitter right now, Bonnie Mew is actually transgender or something stupid like that. I think that would be stupid. But I don't think that they should be able to be like sued for libel, because I don't think that that's something that could, you know, my employer would find and be like, oh, we can't hire her, she's doing that, or something like that. I don't think that could do any sort of financial harm to me. Just one person with zero platform.
Okay, I mean, I can agree with that broadly. I feel like you're positing kind of like a Mad Max style post-apocalyptic gladiatorial approach towards freedom of speech, where everyone should have whatever right they want to engage in basically any kind of rhetorical violence against anyone else, and at the end of the day, whoever comes out on top is like the victor, you know? Because unless we recognize that people should be held responsible for engaging in rhetoric which leads to violence, we have to accept the fact that not only will it be impossible to stop this violence in a broader sense, but the only way to get on top in this society that you're describing, this idyllic sort of ultra free speech society, would be by being the most vicious rhetorician conceivable, to engage in every manner of disconcertation, of intimidation, of harassment, of threatening, to do everything possible to shut down the opponent. Because after all, the laws permit all of it, and whoever succeeds is the one who gets their opinion out there.
An idealist, but I think people are better than that, and I think in a society, I do that for the most part. I think that there are even some laws in America that I think that we should get rid of or do changes to, for example, the libel law, to have more inclusivity of freedom of speech in this world that I'm proposing, especially if it was expanded beyond America. I believe that people would be better than that. I don't think it would just be people being vile and going at each other's throats like you're proposing.
Do you remember Gamergate back in 2014, where a whole bunch of like woman journalists in gaming got doxxed and harassed and targeted with rape and death threats, to the extent that all of them had to like basically do like witness protection shit to deal with the mob that was coming after them, and all of it was started and propped up basically by a couple of online figureheads who wouldn't directly order people to commit violence against these people, but who nonetheless encouraged it by repeatedly slandering them and giving everyone the opportunity to believe that they are in the right for doing so. I mean, you say that people are better than that, but we have tons of examples through modern history of right-leaning people doing just that all the time to shut down left-leaning people, especially on the internet. And it goes back even further than that. I mean, structural targeted violence against left-leaning people, communists and anarchists and labor unionists. I mean, these things are American as apple pie. It just kind of sucks then that under this like free speech absolutist worldview, only the people with the greatest public support can survive the free-for-all that we are throwing everyone into rhetorically.
I don't know enough about Gamergate. I didn't get into video games until like I grew up in a household where video games were not allowed. So I didn't get into video games until like basically. So I didn't find out about Gamergate or get really into Gamergate until post Gamergate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe I have enough information on that subject to be able to attest to what happened to Sarkeesian or something like that.
Yeah, it was like Anita Sarkeesian and fucking Zoe Quinn, a bunch of other people tangentially related, but
I
they were.
don't have enough background on that. I don't have enough, familiarity with that to be able to that specific incident and say something.
Okay.
Definitive.
All right. So let's take a bit of a step back here, because I feel like we got on a really niche free speech argument, and that's already kind of a presupposition most Americans take for granted when we talk about like rights and freedoms here. We're usually operating under the assumption that freedom of speech is going to continue to exist. That's kind of how we live our lives. Let's if you don't mind, do you think we could maybe go back to something Hunter Avallone said?
Or anything that he said.
Okay. Why is he so mad about the United Airlines thing with their mix inclusion?
It's kind of for the, like you said, the same reason that you are. He feels like it's just a cheap cash grab.
Yeah, but
using.
But again, our intents here are different. I think it's a cheap cash grab, and I want them to do more. He thinks it's a cheap cash grab, so he shouldn't do it at all. There's a pretty big difference there.
I think that you missed something that he was saying about that, though, which is that he doesn't think that be using gendered things at all. And you pointed out, you're like, hey, but you still have Mr. and Mrs. to choose from. I feel like a lot of people get offended. Like I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I work a retail job, and I found that it's usually safer to not say Mr. or Mrs. to people, or sir or ma'am.
That's why you get to choose on the website when you book a ticket.
Appreciate it, but like most people, you risk like getting it wrong and offending somebody, or even some people get offended if you ma'am them or sir them because they're like, So I think that
that's why when you're booking a ticket, you choose your.
Or using those.
Again, when you're booking a ticket, you choose your gender. This is already something that you could do. The only options used to be Mr. and Mrs.
Why does it matter your gender to buy a ticket?
So wait, hold on. No, hold on. Why do conservatives only care about this now that they're adding a MX option? If that's what Hunter Avallone was saying, oh, it's so silly. Why do you need your gender recognized to go on a plane? Why wasn't he complaining about this before? Because it seems like he only gave a shit.
I can't attest for what.
Okay, it's just really curious to me. Hold on, it's just really curious to me how he doesn't care about it at all, and then the non-binary option gets introduced, and then he's like, "Ooh, why do you even need your gender introduced?" It's just it's strange to me.
I didn't care about it at all either until I knew about it. I'd never been on a flight where I had to choose which gender pronoun I was being referred to.
You don't choose your pronoun. It's just Mr. or Mrs. If I went on Expedia right now and booked a ticket to Los Angeles, I would have to. I'm sorry?
That they even have that, to be honest.
Wait. So you think it's weird that they have your preferred title, Mr. or Mrs. or MX, but not weird then, it's not an overstep of boundaries then that they need your credit card information, your address, your phone number, your email address, your full name, and a bunch of other personal information? We draw the line then at the gender?
The gender is different than like saying they're addressing you. If your flight attendant is addressing you, they probably, like, I don't think it's necessary to say, hey, ma'am, would you like some crackers, as opposed to would you like
Can
some
you
crackers?
listen?
Like,
I'm going to
like
get listen. I am
say,
going to get angry at you if you continue being disingenuous with me. Hunter Avallone did not add this section to his video so he could say it's weird that airlines ask you for your preferred title before they give you a ticket. He did it to make fun of the fact that they included a non-binary option. The joke here was not, haha, airlines ask for your title. The joke here was that they added MX to the title. If you disagree with this, you are lying to me deliberately. There was no other interpretation to what he is saying there.
I believe that the reason he did it was because of the, like, I don't think he would have covered it if it just came out and it's like they're asking you for your. There's a chance, but I think it's very low that he would have covered it.
No. Stop. He never would have made a video. He never would have made a video on, you'll never believe what United Airlines does. And then it's like, they ask you if you prefer to be called Mr. or Mrs. That would never happen. He would never make a video like that. It will not happen in 1,000 years. The problem he had with it is the fact that there was a non-binary option being put in there. Not that the option existed at all. This, who even cares about gender anyway, shit, is something that disingenuous little cuck boys like him, reactionary little fuck boys, like to throw in there because it's the closest thing they can get to deniable plausibility or plausible deniability when they're talking about denying fucking gender minorities their representation in media and in business. He would have never made a video on it prior. And he knew about it, too. This kid he makes money off this fucking YouTube channel. He's been on flights. He's hit the Mr. Tech checklist, okay? That has happened before. Or maybe he went in a fucking wig and went with Mrs. one time. I couldn't tell you. The point is, the video was on non-binary inclusions here, not on the existence of the option to have your title selected at all. It is ridiculous to suggest otherwise.
I would agree that the video was because it had the MX, but I don't think that that's his primary objective. He's saying that it was a thing. Why do we even need this anyways? Because it's such, and that the
then why did he say? Then why did he say we're reinforcing
the only
delusion?
reason this company did this was to make money.
Again, I don't care. That is not that is not an argument he is sincerely making. The argument that oh, this is only a cash grab is one which should be made to then say we should see United Airlines trying to sincerely integrate these values into their company, not to then say they shouldn't do it at all. No one else would use that argument unironically. Hey, they're just doing this as a cash grab. They shouldn't do it at all. No one would say that. If you criticize them for doing something as a cash grab, it's because you want them to do it sincerely. Earlier in the video, he made fun of the gender fluid sex worker. He said a gender fluid sex worker and then paused for a little fucking laugh track he put in. And then for the United Airlines thing, he said United Airlines is encouraging delusion. The problem here was not with the existence of the titles, it was with the fact that they added MX specifically for non-binary people. You cannot be so dishonest as to suggest otherwise.
Why can't he have a problem with both of them?
Because he wouldn't make a video on one, but he made a video on the other, and he bolstered it with a whole bunch of rhetoric that was specifically targeted against non-binary people and their legitimacy. Like you realize you're being insanely stupid right now. This isn't just disingenuous. If you listen, because I'm torn right now. I don't know if you're lying to me because you're too prideful to admit that he's wrong on this, or if you're actually stupid enough to believe that his reason for putting this in a video called LGBT insanity.
But I'm saying it was one of his reasons.
Oh, sure. One. Okay, then maybe that could be the tiny little mote of dust reason. Riding a trop, the gigantic elephant reason. Haha, let's make fun of fucking non-binary people. The video was called LGBT Insanity. Earlier, he called a gender fluid person, he made like a laugh track joke about them. He said their existence was a joke and only existed to gain attention. Then he turned his attention towards the United Airlines thing, said that United Airlines is reinforcing delusion. This is 100% an attack on non-binary people and not an attack on having your fucking titles included when you sign out the form for buying a ticket online. It is ridiculous to suggest otherwise. And if you're saying, oh, well, that was one of his reasons, then fine. I don't care about that. I care about the other reasons, which were about shitting on LGBT people.
I'm saying that he thought that that was a trivial... I'm not saying that he wasn't making it to say that he thought that the was ridiculous. Clearly that was the primary motivation.
Then why did you just lie to me at the beginning of this? Why did you just lie to me? Yes, you did. You said, oh, he just...
For what he did.
No, you said at the beginning of this, multiple times at the beginning of this, you said, oh, he maybe would have done a video on the United Airlines title thing, even if it weren't for the non-binary thing.
People get annoyed when they see, like, if I'm playing a video game and it's, like, asking me my preferred pronouns at the beginning, I get, like...
You get annoyed because you are a bigot. I don't get annoyed. Non-binary people don't get annoyed. Trans people don't get annoyed.
Even if it doesn't include some sort of, like, still think it's like, oh, okay, just the way it's worded, you know?
Yeah, I don't care what a bigot feels about gender inclusivity in games and media and businesses. Like, I know you're bigoted. You don't think that you think transgenderism or transness is a mental illness. You believe there are only two genders. You believe gender refers to genitalia. You believe non-binary people are delusional. You believe that other
gender. Okay,
but you do. So you have to recognize then that I'm not going to take seriously your anecdotal suggestion that it's objectively annoying to everyone when this kind of inclusivity is brought about.
I'm not saying everyone either. I'm saying me specifically.
I don't care. We're not talking about you or me. We're talking about why Hunter Avallone dedicated a third of a video of his to making fun of LGBT people in the context of United Airlines adding a non-binary option. I could rewatch this fucking third of the video, and I guarantee you that in the 3 minutes that covers it, I could find at least a dozen times that he speaks diminutively of non-binary people or makes fun of their existence or suggests their existence as a joke or makes some other dumbass joke at the expense of LGBT people.
He doesn't believe that non-binary is a thing. That's why he's doing that.
Yeah, that's bigotry. I know he doesn't. That's bigotry.
Well,
yeah, like, no, I know. It's very frustrating for you because you're up against a wall. You're up against a rock at a fucking hard place here. And I am that hard place. You're in a situation now where you cannot be not a bigot without recognizing something you don't believe to be true. But that's the problem. The thing that you believe to be true is a product of your biases. Gender is, in every consensus imaginable, a social construct, and it has been for decades. Therefore, if it is socially constructed and a matter of identity, it makes perfect sense that people would be able to identify outside of that binary. This is all well-stated fact academically. This is not a conspiracy being pushed by leftist fucking post-Marxian third-wave academic nihilists or whatever shit fucking Blair White or Steven Crowder had to say about it. This is academic consensus. And you have run up to a position now where you cannot disagree with it without kind of being a bit of a bigot. And that's true. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. If you want to address that, you can read up on the literature instead of relying on your YouTube subscription page to teach you about fucking gender and change your opinion on the subject.
Read all sorts of... I used to be a subscriber of the Young Turks back in the day because I just wanted to see what the other side was thinking. I would watch their videos. The only time I stopped watching their videos is when YouTube initially implemented the recommendation system. And they started bombarding me with their videos, and then I unsubscribed. I used to watch, like, the other side. I try to watch news sources in addition to stuff that I watch about, like, Hunter Avallone, Blair White, Steven Crowder, etc., etc. I try to watch either non-biased news sources or try to have discussions and watch, like, videos from people on the other side. Understand your guys' point of view. I don't want to just have myself in an echo chamber.
Yeah, you literally told me your favorite YouTube channels are like Blair White and Steven Crowder and Hunter Avallone. And you literally, when I called you on your research, you literally started citing YouTube videos to me from Blair White. You are in an echo chamber. I'm not. Not only do I engage with literature and YouTube videos from the other side, I mean, that's literally what I'm getting paid to do right now. Not only do I do that, but in my fucking academic career, I was extremely active on campus learning about gender, racial, sexual, and class hierarchies in society. I have evidence that I can cite that goes back decades on this subject. And when I say this to you...
that have, like, the other side, too. I've taken women's studies course. I've taken women in film. I've taken all sorts of, like, classes like that.
Okay, and if you have engaged with academic research on gender and with Blair White videos, and you have chosen to side with Blair White videos, that's no one's fault but your own.
Because I believe Blair White and Hunter Avallone and Steven Crowder have provided more reasonable evidence and founded evidence than you have, or people on the other side, or the things that I was taught in the women's studies / women film classes.
All right. Okay, you got me. All right, I need to play some fucking video games. Are there any... I'm giving you the last paragraph. Is there anything you want to say to chat and fucking radicalize my lefty viewers?
I don't want to radicalize anybody. I wish that people would be more open to having a discussion.
I agree. It really frustrates me when conservatives come into chat and then they tell me I'm a libcuck, and then I try and argue with them and they bitch out. So I'm actually really gratified that for once I got to argue with somebody.
I try to be open-minded when it comes to this type of stuff because there are things I've changed my mind on in the past. I used to be, this probably won't surprise you, I used to be anti-gay marriage. And I used to like be of the mindset that being gay was a choice. And then like I engaged with the other side some more and I watched more videos. I watched videos from the other side and I realized, oh, the reason that I feel this way is because I'm bisexual. So for me, it kind of is a choice. You know, I'm open to hearing other points of view. I'm open to changing my opinion. Being called a Nazi or being thrown into this, oh, well, she's set in her ways, she's never going to change her opinion kind of mentality. So I feel like if you guys inviting or less likely to throw me into the same category as somebody like Richard Spencer or somebody like the New Zealand shooter, a bunch of the people who have my opinions and are in my community would be more open to hearing what you have to say.
All right. I'll take that into consideration. I appreciate you coming on. You have unironically demonstrated far more courage and conviction than 98% of the chuds that I see in my day-to-day life. I love you deeply, and I hope that you have a phenomenal day, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Also, I don't know how to hang up on Discord, so you're going to have to do that.
I'll do it for you. Don't worry. All right. Farewell.
Goodbye.